What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining me on these analysis. We're going to be checking out MSTR and Bitcoin today. We closed at 335.09. We have 2 days and 19 hours left for the weekly close for MSTR. We do have the FOMC meeting tomorrow, so that should bring some volatility. Like I already said in the previous video, we already know that the markets are forward-looking, so they were already anticipating those cuts prior, and that's why we saw the market shifting upward the past, week or so. So we'll see how the Fed actually, how their tone is. That's going to be the most important thing. However, Jerome Powell delivers his message and how the guidance is pretty much, displayed. That's what's really going to shift how the market reacts to it. It's not going to be the actual cut. So look at the tone, whether it's hawkish or dovish, we'll see. Dovish meaning we're more than likely going to get more cuts and headed toward QE, and hawkish is less cuts and less, economic stimulation. That's pretty much the difference between hawkish and dovish for anybody who is wondering. And how is that going to affect MSTR? Of course, it's going to affect Bitcoin, and of course it should affect MSTR. But as we know, we have been seeing that deviation that we've been speaking of. So we'll see how it plays out. When you take a look at the weekly, you can see that MSTR is kind of flat, slightly down, while Bitcoin has made somewhat of like a V-shaped recovery, or trying to make a V-shaped recovery right here in the pink, compared to this move here from August 4th. And you can see from August 4th, MSTR is almost pretty much creating fresh lows. So we'll see how it turns out. Of course, this thing can always turn around very quickly. If you've been around MSTR long enough, you know that this thing can turn around in the snap of a finger, and everybody will be forgetting about these moments. But right now, what we're looking for is, like I said previously, some kind of chop, which we've been seeing, and holding the structure. If we can continue to hold it and start breaking these wicks right here, these candles and wicks, we could potentially see this upside here, and more than likely find a little bit of rejection. And we'll see if we can continue on through or find major rejection and come back down. And if we were to lose these levels right here, we continue our sideways chop, and we lose these wicks and lose a structure, then we're looking for that retest and continuation down, which would play out the bear flag that we've already spoken about multiple times. That's what we're looking at. Kind of looking like a double top right now. It's pretty much playing out. We'll see if it continues on down to this next structure. Next major level is 257 to around 245. So those are the major targets to look for on the monthly. It's really just been a sideways month. 13 days left. Little to no volume on this month overall. Yeah, it's just sideways chop. Probably the most boring month that we've had. I mean, this one was pretty boring, but this one's even more boring. You can see at least this one ran to 371 all the way up to 460. This one ran up to 346 and now to 317. And now we're sitting at 335. All these other months have been pretty significant. Whether it's to the downside or to the upside, you had major swings. This one has just been non-existent. We're still holding underneath our 50-week SMA, which is our key level of resistance, and we closed slightly underneath our daily 20 moving average. So if we can get a close above that, that's going to start to be a good sign, and hopefully we can start seeing some upside, hopefully up to this 200, but that 200 day is going to be hard to break. That's going to be another level of resistance more than likely. As you can see, we broke underneath it. Once we came back above it, we actually closed, which would increase our odds of pushing up, and we still ended up falling through. So expect some kind of rejection when we get there. Not saying that we can't break it, but expect some kind of slowdown. If we're trending upward, expect the slowdown here at 200. And when we look at a large time frame on the 3-month, like I said before, we already had a really positive close here at 403. You can see we had major wicking action on this 3-month candle and on this one here. and we closed above it. We pushed above, closed, now we're pushing back down. So this could really just be a retest of this major zone. Ideally, that would be the case. If not, then we could lose this entire thing. And if we were to lose this structure and come down here to the 250s and 245s, if we were to lose 230, then it's gonna be a rough time for MSTR holders. I'll just say that. But right now, we're not going to talk about that yet because we haven't even lost this structure. So our main focus is over here, looking for this bear flag potentially, and watching these fib levels as well, because they are always major factors. As you can see, we got that bounce off the 382, and we found rejection actually off the 236 Wednesday on the 10th. So we'll see if we can actually break above the 236, use it as support, and slowly start breaking these levels to the upside and invalidate this bearish move. That's the ideal scenario right now. On Bitcoin, on the monthly, you can see that we are pushing into this rejection zone that we've had. We haven't had a close on the monthly above 115.8 yet. So we pushed up to this level, we closed solid, and then the second time we pushed all the way up and got major rejection and ended up closing all the way down at 108. So we still have 13 days, so it's still very early, but getting a close inside of these wicks will be a major move. We could see some higher upside, especially if we can get a close on the monthly above that structure there and find a retest the following month. Then we can start talking about touching higher targets at that midline, where we'll more than likely find rejection and potentially a cycle top, we'll see, or at least some kind of local top. We don't know when the cycle will end. Could go on a little bit longer than we anticipate, so be ready for that. But if it were to go on as we expect to, December Q4 or so of 2025, then potentially being the top here, plus or minus a wick, like I've always said. Could wick all the way up to 160 and push back down. Could wick all the way up to 175, depending on when we touch it, and wick back down. So those are always possibilities. Like I said, if you were to touch it here in December, the line is at 150. So you could wick all the way up to, like I said, 175, still close back underneath it, and then continue to fall back under. But Bitcoin ended up touching that 175 or even higher targets. So be aware of that. But those are the levels that I'm going to be looking for if we were to get a close on the monthly above this key structure that dates back to 2021 highs. We're going to be looking for that retest and continuation to the upside. It just increases the odds. It's not guaranteed. And before that, we'll be watching the weekly. That's what we want to see. On the weekly, we're looking for a close above this structure, retest, and push up higher. Ideally, would be closing above this structure for a retest off of here to push up to this white line. And then on the daily, we just got our highest close off of this entire leg here. We've been trending higher. We're starting to see two different angles, as you can see. Let me zoom out a little bit. So we had this first angle here that we kind of have established. Depending on how you draw it, if you want to draw it to the bodies, then it's not as steep. It could look more like that. And then we have the secondary angle right here that's being formed for a potential steeper move to the upside. So if we were to break this structure, expect a move down to this next trend line or to the original trend line that we have established here. If we were to lose that steeper trend line, we could potentially fall to this secondary or original trend line, however you want to call it. But right now, we did get a daily close back above the structure, so we're looking for some sort of retest of this zone and potentially a continuation higher. This is starting to increase the odds of a move higher. And our candle close, as you can see, this candle right here, you measure it up with this, and it closed at or above these wicks, which is a nice sign. So that should allow price to have a little bit of breathing room to push up higher. And then we have to worry about minor levels right here of resistance somewhere in this ballpark right there in that 117 to 118 level. Those are minor levels, not as important as the major levels here. But when you date back, you can see it has been somewhat of a factor, though. As you can see, it's been a key level in this portion of the price action here. So we'll see if it plays a role over here. I would expect some kind of slowdown, but the major level is this one up top and this one over here, along with this new established trend line to the upside. Weekly SMAs, we've been riding our 20-week SMA, looking pretty solid right now. We closed underneath it, and now we've had 3 consecutive closes above, or 2, and potentially going to get a third one this week. And on the daily, we're riding above our 50. We use it as support and as a trampoline, and now we're continuing to higher prices. And when we take a look at the 4-hour, we broke above our 20, use it as support, and now we are climbing as well. And the 4-hour candle looked pretty solid. As you can see, it's the highest one that we've had in this most recent data, surpassing this one here, over here at like 116.7. This one closed a little higher, like 100 points higher or so. And according to the monthly RSI, we have not seen our top just yet. If we were to continue this trend, we had 95, 91 or so. If we were to touch it, depending on when we touch it, it could be around 84 to 85, maybe 83, somewhere in that ballpark. So we're just trying to break back into overbought territory currently, sitting at around 70 or 69.8, something around there. But I would just say overbought territory for simpler terms. And then we have to break this downtrend that we have right here, this little trend that's being established. If we can break through that, then we could potentially see those higher targets. And it's going to be the same thing that we always talk about. If we can break it, retest, it'll allow us to push up to that next target where we could potentially find that local top, maybe the cycle top, who knows. But in terms of the monthly, we haven't seen anything just yet. And we are established with higher highs and higher lows, looking pretty solid, creating some kind of bull flag, looking very good at the moment. Nothing has really changed for Bitcoin. On the weekly, we're seeing a little bit of downside, trying to get some kind of V-shaped recovery. We'll see what happens once we get to this yellow moving average, if we can break it, or if we end up finding rejection. On the daily, looks a little more promising. Some kind of bottoming pattern, maybe a triple bottom or so. And now we have those established higher highs and higher lows, looking pretty solid, well above our yellow moving average, and we're above the 50 dotted line, trying to break back into overbought territory for a nice extended move to the upside. Global liquidity continues to rise, so we're looking for that extended move for Bitcoin, whether that pushes into Q4 or if that pushes into Q1 2026. We'll see. It's always possible. Never count anything out. Be open to multiple ideas, and you won't be caught off guard if you are ready for different outcomes. When we look at MSTR divided by IBIT, today slightly outperformed. It was up 0.89 versus IBIT, so really nothing too crazy. Practically a flat day. Bitcoin's currently sitting at 116.6. MSTR is at 335, so we'll see how that plays out. The 20-day is still sitting above us at 525, so if we do get a move up there, expect some kind of rejection along with this key level of support and resistance here. So that would be a major level to watch for. And then of course our 20 and 50 are pushing down, but they are well above price at the moment. And now be aware of the 8-day EMA that's currently sitting at 510. So if we do start to outperform with MSTR, expect some kind of rejection where Bitcoin could continue to outperform if we find rejection off this moving average, and the trend could continue on down as we have that pretty solid trend to the downside here. It's been pretty well established, so that in confluence with this 8 moving average, this downtrend, and this key level of support and resistance could potentially signal some kind of rejection with a wick and continuation of underperformance against IBIT. Yeah, I'm trying not to be so bearish, but I'm just showing you what I see on the charts. I'm not trying to have a bias. I'm just giving you what I see on the charts. I know lately it's been feeling like every video is incredibly bearish, but honestly the price action hasn't been very good. I'm just trying to keep it as real as I can. on tether dominance, we have the 20 still above price. So if we were to get some kind of push up higher, I don't see us surpassing 4.5 right now because we have this nice downtrend, and it looks like we got a pretty solid bounce off the fib here at the 0.5. If we were to push up, we'd probably find rejection off the 382 in confluence with this 20-week SMA, and that would probably be enough combined to push price down with this minor level of support and resistance. And on the daily, don't forget we have the 50 where we found rejection as well, and that could also be playing a factor together and pushing price even lower. And if this goes down, of course, that's what we want to see, because that's going to show some kind of upside for Bitcoin as they are inversely correlated. I'll overlay it for anybody who has not seen the inverse correlation that the two have. You can see that very clearly here, completely inversely correlated. That's why we look at tether dominance, because if we can kind of spot something on tether dominance, we might be able to give ourselves a little bit of a heads up as to what could happen on Bitcoin. If we start to break 4.19 and fall underneath this level, I could see us touching this downward sloping trend line, and that would be a nice spike for Bitcoin. If we could fall all the way down to almost 4 flat, that would be very ideal. And I would imagine Bitcoin would probably be in the 120s at that point, or maybe even a little bit higher. Who knows if it catches a nice little bit of momentum, maybe the FOMC meeting or something is enough to ignite it. We'll see, of course. And onto the dollar, which we've been talking about. So it's kind of tricky because this is incredibly bearish, but the overall trend is incredibly bullish. So I don't know what's going to overtake what. Obviously, this is a larger piece of data here. So obviously, you're going to go with this and say that this is bullish. And I've kind of just been bearish. I've been bearish on the dollar the entire time. I can't ignore the fact that we've found support off of this trend line multiple times. We deviated a little bit, and we found major bounces off of here. We've seen major bear markets when you get this crazy spike on the dollar, like halfway up. If we do break through, because I was saying I have two scenarios in my head. I was saying that over here, somewhere in this ballpark, that we come here and that's where we find our support, and we start to rally on the dollar, which could lead to weakness for risk on assets. The other scenario is that we slightly deviate underneath, and then we find some support somewhere in this region off of this key level support, and then we come back into the trend line, back into the channel, and we start to push up from there. Who knows? I don't know. I'm not going to pretend like I do. But that's what we're looking for. I'm bearish on the dollar, but I'm also very, very aware of this solid trend that we've had established. So I'm very, have like a mixed feelings, but short-term bearish, but definitely bullish long-term on the dollar. I do think we're getting probably close to the bottom, I would say. And maybe we see something catastrophic and we drop, let's say we have a major drop. I still don't see it surpassing this level here, or even this level here. Let me draw it out. Let's see. Oops. Let me do that. We still have another key zone right here on the way down, that even if we were to lose this and we had a catastrophic drop on the dollar, I still think we probably find a bounce there. And if we don't find it there, then the last line in the sand would be this structure over here somewhere. That's where I would see the final leg, but I don't even think we're going to make it down there. It's always possible, but I don't think we will. We'll find out, of course, with time. Be aware of that. And if we were to see a major move on a dollar and we start getting a crazy spike like this, you can start to expect some kind of top. Yeah, if you get a move like that, I don't know if we're going to make it to the top of the channel, but somewhere in there, you're going to start to see a bear market, because risk on assets will start to get weaker. On the weekly, we have the 20 riding right above the dollar. So, I mean, this is pretty bearish, which is good for risk on assets. If we can get a close underneath this wick, that's going to be pretty solid, and we could make it to this next structure, and we'll see how it plays out. I would imagine that if we make a move down here, we probably have some kind of a retest of this structure to see if we want to break back in or continue that trend even lower. And on the daily, kind of the same thing. We actually just closed outside of the structure on the daily. So let's see. I mean, remember this drawing could be off slightly, so we could still be inside of it. But based off this drawing was, well ahead of this move. So it's been up for a while now. And we closed outside of it according to this drawing. Let's see if we get a retest and continuation to the downside. That's what I would be aware of for, Bitcoin, the dollar, just the economy in general. Keep a heads up on that. Drop a like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one.